In January of this year, Hulk Hogan defeated the Iron Sheik and turned wrestling on its head. And this, of course, is after Vince pulled Hogan away from Vern Gagne's AWA, among other talents that he would tempt away from that territory. I know that promoters at the time looked at it as being really kind of underhanded by Vince to go scooping guys from other territories. And maybe it was, but Ted, you're a wrestler, so you have a different perspective than promoters. Like when Vince starts going around and kind of scooping up all the most talented people, do you view that as like, hey, it could be an opportunity down the road if Vince is going to be scooping
Well,
people
exactly,
out?
exactly. And again, the other thing you got to remember is Vince McMahon. He didn't just go steal the talent. He had conversations with all those promoters and said, "Hey, this is what I'm about to do. If you want to come on board and be a part of it, then please do." But none of them did because they all were, those wrestling promoters own, they own their territory, and my God, you're not going to come in here and da 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 da. Whether you don't have enough sense to look down the road and see what's happening, and see where it's going, and what you could be a part of. It's more important for them to, this is mine and you can't have it.
It's silliness, and honestly, it points to the idea that these guys didn't want to change the way that they had been doing business. Vince McMahon is trying to innovate the wrestling business, and all these guys are just content to keep doing business as it had been done. And like you said, in all likelihood, wrestling would have gone away or at least diminished
Well,
significantly without Vince.
I'll be honest with you, when because I grew up in the business, at first, when I first heard about McMahon and what he was doing, I was mad. Yeah, I was like, "What's he doing? What the hell does he think he's doing?" Nah, 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 nah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my attitude changed pretty quick.
Yeah, I would think so.
Because I saw what was coming.
Um, so I asked Jake this question, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it before I tell you what he had to say. Do you feel that Vince McMahon made Hulk Hogan, or did Hulk Hogan make Vince McMahon a success?
Uh, I think Vince would have to have, the foresight to see, okay, I can take this guy and I can make him the centerpiece of what I'm doing. Because let's go back a few. You remember I told you the first time I went to New York?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, my last match in New York on my first run through was with Hulk Hogan before he was Hulk Hogan. And I had Hulk's first match in Madison Square Garden
And put him over.
and put him over. Yeah. And so, I think, I don't know.
So you feel that Vince McMahon positioning Hulk Hogan for success is what made Hulk Hogan so successful?
Well, no, I mean, not exactly. I mean, positioning is important, but you got to have something to offer.
Mm-hmm.
You got to, you got, like now we're looking at, the other thing is the change and seeing the way, back then I was thinking old school sometimes too, and old school. Well, like Vince McMahon he's thinking about, I want my top guy to be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to be a hero because I plan on down the road getting with a toy company and making action figures and video games.
If the guy can't hold up his end of the bargain, then none of it works.
Yeah.
What do you, if you had to guess, what would you say was Jake's take on that question?
Jake would probably say, he was only as good as whoever he worked with.
Jake said that Vince could have put anybody in that position and given him that level of exposure, and they would have had the same success as Hulk Hogan. And I don't know if I agree with it or not. It's I think it's a good perspective.
He said what?
Jake said you could take anybody and give them the kind of exposure and opportunities that Vince was giving to Hulk Hogan, and they would have achieved the same levels of success as Hulk Hogan had, because he's like, his face was everywhere. You couldn't turn on the TV without seeing him, and that's Vince McMahon's marketing. Action figures every time you go in the store, magazines. He said the perception was that he was a hero, so he became the hero. So I don't know. I don't know if I agree with it, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, to a degree, I agree with it. I mean, it's kind of like, uh, you're gonna, push it down their throat. I mean, but the guy's got to have something to offer, right?
Yes.
And Hulk had, what you could, he had his thing, and he lived up to it. But yeah, maybe he could. I don't know. Well, one guy, the other guy that he tried it with and it failed visibly was the Ultimate Warrior.
Yep.
He got over, but it was short lived.
His face was everywhere too, and it just didn't work. So to your point, I think that it takes the person as well to
Yeah,
get it over.
it takes both. Yeah.